Every real estate agent you talk to will say the same thing in 2026. Texas is where you want to be. Low taxes, no state income tax, jobs moving in, and space that coastal cities cannot offer. And for a lot of cities, they are not wrong. But here is what they will never tell you. Some of the most searched Texas cities right now are quiet traps. The insurance will cost you more than you budgeted. The commute that was sold as 30 minutes is 45 on a good day. The builders flooded the market and left. Today, we count down 10 Texas cities you should avoid moving to in 2026. Galveston is an island city of about 54,000 people on the Texas Gulf Coast, connected to the mainland by a single causeway. It has Victorian architecture, a seawall, beaches, and a tourist economy that draws millions of visitors every year. If you are relocating to Texas and you want coastal living at a price point that does not exist in Florida or the Carolinas, Galveston is going to look like the answer. It is not. Galveston sits in the direct path of Gulf hurricanes, and that single fact reshapes every financial calculation a homebuyer needs to make. The Great Storm of 1900 killed between 6,000 and 12,000 people and remains the deadliest natural disaster in American history. Hurricane Ike in 2008 caused billions in damage and left parts of the island uninhabitable for months. The city rebuilt both times. But the question for anyone relocating here in 2026 is not whether Galveston can rebuild. The question is whether your finances survive the next one while you wait. Homeowners insurance on Galveston Island is among the most expensive in Texas. Flood insurance, required in most zones on the island, adds $200 to $400 per month to your housing cost before you make a single mortgage payment. Major carriers have pulled back from coastal Texas. The policies that remain carry high deductibles and shrinking coverage windows. A home listed at $320,000 on Zillow actually costs $320,000 plus that monthly insurance premium that builds no equity and never stops. The flooding risk is not a worst-case scenario. Storm surge from a direct hurricane hit can push water across the entire island. Tropical storms and heavy rain events cause street flooding that damages vehicles and ground floor interiors regularly. The seawall protects part of the city. The parts it does not protect are where the more affordable homes are listed. Galveston is a beautiful place to visit in 2026. The Strand District is worth an afternoon. The seafood is exceptional. But buying a home on an island that sits 8 feet above sea level in the active Gulf hurricane corridor is not a relocation decision. It is a wager. And the house always wins. Except in Galveston, sometimes the house does not survive. Baytown is a city of about 85,000 people on the eastern edge of the Houston metro, sitting along the Houston Ship Channel and Galveston Bay. It is the center of the Texas petrochemical industry. ExxonMobil operates one of the largest refineries in the country here. Chevron Phillips, Covestro, and a cluster of other chemical companies run massive facilities in and around the city. The plants operate around the clock. So does the pollution. Air quality in the Baytown corridor has been a documented concern for decades. The Houston Ship Channel stretch that runs through Baytown is one of the most heavily industrialized coastlines in the United States. Emissions from the refineries and chemical facilities include compounds linked to respiratory illness and long-term health consequences. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality monitors the corridor. But monitoring and solving are two entirely different things. Some homes in Baytown sit within a mile of active industrial facilities. The smell on certain days is unmistakable. The flaring, the controlled burning of excess gas that sends columns of flame into the night sky, is a regular occurrence that newcomers find alarming and long-term residents have learned to accept. Flooding. Harlingen is a city of about 70,000 people in the Rio Grande Valley at the southernmost tip of Texas, roughly 30 minutes from the Mexican border. Median home prices sit well under $200,000. For anyone sorting a Texas map by lowest price in 2026, Harlingen lights up like a beacon. That affordability is not a feature. It is a warning. The Rio Grande Valley has some of the highest poverty rates in the entire United States. Cameron County, where Harlingen sits, carries a poverty rate roughly double the national average. The median household income sits well below the state average. The job market, anchored by healthcare, education, and the remnants of the former Harlingen Air Force Base, does not generate the kind of wages that support long-term home price appreciation. Harlingen is affordable because the economy is affordable. The wages are low, the growth is slow, and the pool of buyers who can qualify for a mortgage, even at these prices, is limited. That limited buyer pool is the trap that most relocating families do not see until they try to leave. Buying a home in Harlingen is relatively straightforward. Selling one is not. Days on market stretch well beyond the state average. Price appreciation has been minimal compared to virtually every other Texas metro over the past decade. If you need to sell quickly because of a job change or a family situation, you are at the mercy of a market that moves at the speed of the local economy. The heat adds another layer. Summer temperatures in the valley regularly exceed 100 degrees, with humidity that pushes the felt temperature to 110. The subtropical climate is brutal from June through September. The infrastructure, roads, drainage systems, public services reflects a tax base that cannot fund the upgrades a growing population demands. Harlingen is not a bad city. The community is warm, the food is exceptional, and the cost of living is genuinely low. But relocating here and buying a home as a financial move is betting on a market that has shown almost no upward momentum in decades. In real estate, a city that does not appreciate is a city where your equity sits still while every other Texas market moves forward without you. Mesquite is a city of about 150,000 people in Dallas County, sitting directly east of Dallas along Interstate 30 and Interstate 635. For years, it was known for two things: the Mesquite Championship Rodeo and affordable housing with a short drive to Dallas. The rodeo is still here. The case for the affordable housing is getting harder to make. Mesquite carries a crime rate that runs well above the Dallas County average. Property crime, in particular, has been a persistent and growing problem in 2026. Vehicle theft, burglary, and retail theft have pushed numbers into territory that surprises people who assumed that proximity to Dallas meant access to Dallas-level suburban safety. It does not. Mesquite absorbs Dallas crime spillover without sharing in the tax base that funds the police departments of Plano, Frisco, and Allen to the north. The housing market in Mesquite tells the story of a city stuck between two identities. Prices are lower than the northern suburbs, but not low enough to justify the trade-offs. A 3-bedroom home in Mesquite might save you $40,000 to $50,000 compared to a comparable home in McKinney. But the crime rate, the aging infrastructure, and the declining commercial corridors erase that savings in quality of life within the first year. The city's commercial landscape is strip malls, big box anchors, and aging shopping centers losing tenants to newer developments further out. There is no functioning downtown in any meaningful sense. For a city of 150,000 people, the absence of a walkable center or a cultural anchor makes Mesquite feel like a place people live in but do not choose. Mesquite is not dangerous in the way that some cities on this list are dangerous. It is mediocre. And in a relocation decision where you are building a life, mediocre is its own kind of trap. If that description just matched the city you were searching on Zillow last week, you are exactly the person this channel exists for. Subscribe, because the top 6 cities on this list are not just mediocre. They are dangerous for your long-term financial position in ways that take years to fully understand. Temple is a city of about 82,000 people in Bell County in central Texas, roughly 65 miles north of Austin. It is anchored by 2 institutions, Baylor Scott and White Medical Center, the largest employer in the region, and Fort Cavazos, formerly known as Fort Hood, one of the largest military installations in the world. Those two institutions employ a significant portion of the city's workforce, and that concentration is precisely the problem. A city whose economy depends on one hospital system and one military base is a city that is one federal budget decision away from a very different housing market. Fort Cavazos has been subject to base realignment discussions before. If the Department of Defense ever reduces the installation's footprint or shifts operations elsewhere, the downstream effect on Temple's home values would be immediate and severe. Every restaurant, every retail corridor, every service business dependent on military families would feel it within months. The home values supported by base-related demand would correct downward with nothing to cushion the fall. The housing market in Temple already reflects this vulnerability. Prices have been flat relative to the explosive appreciation happening in Georgetown, Round Rock, and the broader I-35 corridor to the south. Buyers and investors who want Central Texas exposure in 2026 are choosing the Austin suburbs because the growth trajectory there is legible. Temple does not have that trajectory. It has stability, which sounds reassuring until you realize that stability built on a military installation is not stability at all. It is dependency wearing a calmer name. Crime in Temple has been trending in the wrong direction. Property crime and violent crime rates have both increased over recent years. The city's proximity to Fort Cavazos introduces a transient population that creates consistent challenges for neighborhood cohesion and community policing. Temple is a workable city if you are employed at the hospital or stationed at the base. But buying a home here as a long-term relocation decision assumes that both institutions will continue operating at their current scale indefinitely. In a world where military budgets shift and hospital systems consolidate, that assumption is the kind of risk a 30-year mortgage does not forgive. Abilene is a city of about 125,000 people in West Texas, sitting roughly 3 hours west of Dallas along Interstate 20. It has 3 universities, a strong faith-based community, and a cost of living among the lowest in the state. It is also one of the most isolated cities in Texas that people seriously consider moving to. And that isolation is the reason the math does not work in 2026. Abilene is 3 hours from Dallas, 3 hours from Austin, 4 hours from Houston. There is no major metro within a reasonable commute distance. That means the local economy must sustain itself entirely. Dyess Air Force Base and the universities provide a foundation, but the private sector job market is thin. Healthcare, retail, and the military account for the majority of employment. For professionals in technology, finance, or corporate careers, the opportunities in Abilene are severely limited and show no signs of expanding. The housing market mirrors the isolation directly. Prices in Abilene are low, often well under $200,000 for a 3-bedroom home. That looks compelling until you understand that the reason prices are low is the same reason prices have not moved. Demand is flat. Population growth has been minimal for decades. The pool of buyers willing to relocate 3 hours from the nearest major city is not growing. And in 2026, with remote work stabilizing rather than expanding, that pool is not about to surge. Resale is the hidden trap that catches most buyers off guard. Purchasing a home in Abilene is easy. Selling one requires patience that most families do not have when life demands a move. Homes sit on the market for months. Price reductions are standard. If you need to sell quickly, you are competing against a deep inventory of similar homes with no compelling reason for a buyer to choose yours. The weather compounds the isolation. West Texas wind is relentless. Dust storms roll through without warning. Summers are brutally hot and winters arrive cold and dry in a way that surprises anyone coming from central or coastal Texas. Abilene is a genuinely good place to live if you value community, faith, affordability, and a slower pace. But locking your relocation money into a market that does not reward patience with appreciation is an expensive lesson. Subscribe to this channel and learn it before the mortgage does the teaching. The top 4 cities on this list are where the most money is being lost by newcomers right now. Pasadena is a city of about 150,000 people in Harris County, sitting directly southeast of Houston along the Houston Ship Channel. It is one of the older suburbs in the Houston metro, and it carries a nickname that has circulated among Houston residents for decades: Stinkadena. That name refers to the odor that drifts across the city from the petrochemical refineries and industrial plants lining the ship channel. The same industrial corridor that runs through Baytown extends fully through Pasadena. The refineries are here, the chemical facilities are here, and the emissions are here. Air quality monitoring in the Pasadena area has consistently recorded elevated levels of industrial pollutants. Residents in neighborhoods closest to the ship channel report odors ranging from mildly unpleasant to genuinely nauseating depending on wind direction and the activity level at nearby plants. Long-term health concerns associated with proximity to these facilities are well documented in public health literature and have been for years. Flooding is the second major risk, and it is not abstract. Pasadena sits in a low-lying section of Harris County that floods during significant rain events. Hurricane Harvey devastated portions of Pasadena in 2017. Homes that had never taken on water in their history were submerged. The lesson thousands of homeowners learned in the aftermath was brutal. Flood insurance in Texas is not automatically part of your mortgage. If you did not carry it separately, you paid entirely out of pocket, or you walked away from the home. The housing stock in Pasadena is older than most Houston suburbs. Many homes were built in the 1950s and 60s, when the refineries were viewed as sources of stable employment rather than health liabilities. Those older homes carry ongoing maintenance costs that newer construction does not. Foundations shift in Houston's clay soil. Plumbing corrodes. Electrical systems need upgrading. Managing a 60-year-old home in a city that floods and smells like an industrial facility is not a relocation strategy. It is an endurance test. Pasadena is affordable relative to the Houston metro, but the reason it is affordable is the same reason residents gave it that nickname decades ago. When the city's own informal name is a warning, the market has already told you everything you need to know. Kyle is a city of about 68,000 people in Hays County along Interstate 35, roughly 20 miles south of Austin. During the pandemic, Kyle was one of the fastest growing cities in the entire country. People priced out of Austin discovered that Kyle offered new construction in the 300s, with what the listings described as a 30-minute commute to downtown. Builders responded by constructing thousands of homes across master-planned communities that spread in every direction. That construction campaign is exactly where the trap begins for anyone relocating in 2026. Kyle is overbuilt. The supply of new homes has outpaced demand by a margin that the market has not yet fully corrected. Inventory is elevated. Days on market are stretching, and the prices that buyers paid at the peak in 2021 and 2022 have not held. Home values in Kyle have declined from their pandemic highs, and the correction is not finished. Buyers who purchased at $400,000 are watching comparable homes list at $360,000. The equity they believed they were building has evaporated. The commute that was marketed as 30 minutes is the other reality check. Interstate 35 through Central Texas is one of the most congested highways in the state, and Kyle sits in the middle of the worst of it. The drive to Austin that buyers were promised regularly runs 45 to 60 minutes during peak hours. The widening projects meant to address the congestion have created construction chaos that will extend for years before delivering meaningful relief. The infrastructure inside Kyle has not kept pace with the population. Roads built for a small town are now absorbing suburban commuter volume. Schools are overcrowded. Water and sewer systems are being expanded, but demand consistently runs ahead of supply. Kyle was sold as the affordable Austin alternative. For a narrow window during the pandemic, that framing was accurate. In 2026, the math has changed. Mortgage rates have compressed the buyer pool. The oversupply of new construction has given buyers leverage that existing homeowners cannot match. The people who bought at the peak are holding homes worth less than they paid, while builders continue delivering new inventory with rate buydowns and closing cost credits that no resale seller can compete with. Kyle is a cautionary tale about what happens when a small city absorbs growth faster than its infrastructure, its roads, and its market fundamentals can support. The builders collected their margins and moved to the next master-planned community. The buyers are left competing against them. El Paso is a city of about 680,000 people at the westernmost tip of Texas, sitting on the Rio Grande directly across from Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. It is geographically unlike any other major Texas city. El Paso is closer to Albuquerque, Tucson, and Phoenix than it is to San Antonio. San Antonio is 9 hours east. Dallas is 10. Houston is 11. El Paso is Texas in name and in a different geography entirely in practice. That isolation is the foundational problem for anyone considering a home purchase here in 2026. The housing market in El Paso has been among the weakest performers in the state over the past 5 years. While the DFW Metroplex, the Austin Corridor, and the Houston suburbs have posted significant appreciation, El Paso's gains have been minimal. Home values have been flat or slightly negative in several zip codes. The market does not carry the demand pressure that drives prices upward because population growth has been modest, and the local economy does not attract the high-income migration that fuels appreciation elsewhere in Texas. The economy in El Paso is heavily dependent on the military, the federal government, and cross-border trade. Fort Bliss is one of the largest military installations in the country and supports a significant portion of local employment. Federal agencies including Customs and Border Protection, ICE, and the DEA maintain substantial operations here. These are stable employers, but they are government positions whose funding is determined by political decisions made in Washington. The cross-border trade that sustains the retail and logistics sectors is directly exposed to shifts in immigration enforcement, tariff policy, and border management. For a relocating family, the question is straightforward. What drives housing demand in El Paso? The answer is the military and the border economy. If either changes, and both are subject entirely to forces outside the city's control, the housing market adjusts with them. The resale challenge compounds everything else. Selling a home in El Paso means finding a buyer willing to commit to living 9 hours from the nearest major Texas city. That buyer pool is the smallest of any significant metro in the state. A small buyer pool means less competition, less appreciation, and a home that is not functioning as an investment. El Paso is a genuinely good city to live in. The cost of living is low, the culture is layered and distinct, the food is some of the finest in Texas, and the crime rate, despite the border location, runs historically lower than most Texas metros. But relocating here and buying a home means locking your capital into a market that is disconnected from the growth engine driving the rest of the state. In Texas, real estate in 2026, being disconnected from the growth, is the same as being left behind. Number 1 on this list is a city that tens of thousands of families moved to during the pandemic, believing they had found the smart play. Conroe is a city of about 100,000 people in Montgomery County, sitting 40 miles north of Houston along Interstate 45. It has been one of the fastest growing cities in Texas for the past decade, and that growth is precisely the reason you should not buy a home here right now. Conroe and the surrounding area have been the target of one of the most aggressive residential construction campaigns in the state. Master-planned communities have gone up in every direction. The Woodlands set the template for large-scale suburban development between Conroe and Houston, and builders took that template and scaled it north into Conroe, Willis, and New Waverly with no sign of stopping. The result is an oversupply of homes that has fundamentally tilted the market against anyone who already owns. New construction inventory in the Conroe area is at levels not seen in years. Builders are offering rate buydowns, closing cost credits, upgraded finishes, and free appliances to move product. When builders start giving things away, it means they have more supply than they have buyers, and every incentive they extend on a new home makes the resale home down the street worth measurably less. If you bought in Conroe in 2021 or 2022 at the peak of the market, you are now competing against brand new homes being sold at or below your original purchase price with incentives you cannot replicate. Your 3-year-old home with a lived-in kitchen and a used yard sits next to a builder model with a full warranty, upgraded countertops, and a monthly payment lower than yours. You cannot win that competition. The commute to Houston compounds the damage. Interstate 45 between Conroe and Houston is one of the most congested corridors in the state. The drive that is supposed to take 40 minutes regularly exceeds an hour for workers heading to downtown Houston, the Energy Corridor, or the Texas Medical Center. That daily grind wears on families and quietly erodes the appeal of being this far out. The fundamentals of Conroe are not without merit. The schools are functional. The community is active, and Lake Conroe provides genuine recreational value. But the housing market is in a correction driven by oversupply, and oversupply is the one problem that time alone does not resolve. Every month that new homes hit the market, the resale pool gets more diluted. The homeowners who bought at the peak watch their equity shrink while the builders keep building. Now, Conroe is number 1 on this list because it represents the exact trap that the Texas growth story sets for buyers who move too fast. Growth without absorption is just construction. Construction without demand is just inventory. Conroe has plenty of construction. What it does not have in 2026 is enough buyers to absorb it. Until that changes, buying here means buying into a market where the supply is working against you every single day. Those are 10 Texas cities you should avoid moving to in 2026. Not because Texas is the wrong state. Texas is one of the strongest relocation markets in the country, and that is not changing. But within that market, there are cities where the numbers do not support the move right now. Hurricane corridors, refinery corridors, economies built on a single military installation, suburbs that builders overbuilt and left, isolated metros disconnected from the state's growth engine, cities where the low price is not a discount. It is a diagnosis. If you are planning a Texas relocation in 2026, look past the listing. Check the insurance premiums. Drive the actual commute at 7 in the morning. Research the employer base. Talk to people who bought 3 years ago and ask them what they know now. And subscribe to this channel. We cover the Lone Star State every week with current data and honest analysis. Drop a comment below and tell us if your city made the list. We will see you in the next one.